The top stories tonight in Y News. The Philippines is bracing itself for the threat of the COVID-19 Delta variant amid the feared possibility of another surge of infections in the country. Hospitals are now setting up new spaces while health officials call for additional oxygen supplies.
The OCTA research group calls for the reimposition of the stay-at-home order for minors and the NCR Plus bubble policy amid the Delta variant threat.
President Rodrigo Duterte wants to challenge existing laws which do not extend immunity to a sitting vice president. The Communist Party of the Philippines denounces the designation of the National Democratic Front of the Philippines as a terror group.
Thailand to impose tougher measures as coronavirus cases continue to surge in the country.
And U.S. President Joe Biden accuses Facebook of killing people with COVID-19 misinformation. Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Monday, July 19, 2021. I am Herlene Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media account and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Pino.
First in the news. 2 more local cases of the COVID-19 Delta variant in the Philippines died, bringing the Delta-related deaths in the country to 3. A repeat testing is now conducted for patients with the highly infectious variant. However, health experts advise for an intensified tracing for all close contacts of the Delta variant patients. Our health correspondent, Aiko Miguel, explains why.
9 of the local cases are isolated and have been again tested for the coronavirus.
Among these 35 cases that we have right now in the country, 3 po ang confirmed na deaths na.
The DOH has been strictly monitoring them if they are still infected with the more transmissible COVID-19 variant. The DOH has yet to give details on how many of them will also have their sample sequenced. The DOH also clarified there is no local case in Taguig City. Instead, it is a returning overseas Filipino worker who is a crew of the MV Athens. Medical experts explain local cases of Delta variant are sporadic, and it is possible that there is already a local and community transmission of the Delta variant in the Philippines.
Pagkalat, let's say, in other areas, sprinklings, archipelago tayo, I think there's a local transmission already. Diba? Kung mako-contact tracings nila yan, malalaman nila yan. How come that meron ka sa Region 3 na isa, meron ka sa NCR 2, then you have in Western Visayas, then you have in Region 10. Diba? Ito lang, alam na natin na tapos may namatay pa.
If we cannot trace na they are not contact one OFW and they were just positive based on a random genomic sequence, then that's the danger there. Because kung hindi matitrace talaga, then probably there is already a community transmission.
Medical experts add the country has limited genome sequencing capacity. The contact tracing should also be intensified, especially for the close contacts of the local cases of Delta variant.
Extensive contact tracing of those who are in contact with those who died. Okay, within 3 days, mag-positive na yan, contact trace ka na yan because you will miss every day you miss 2-3 potential na nahawaan. And that's our problem.
Ngayon yung genomic sequencing natin, hindi siya kasing ganda ng infrastructure. Kulang tayo ng facilities eh.
The Health Department reminds the local government units to implement intensified prevent, detect, isolate, treat, reintegrate or PDITR strategy and strict adherence to minimum public health standards. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Task Force COVID-19 Bicol and local government units are finalizing protocols for the handling of the patients and other crew members of the MV Tug Clyde and barge Claudia. The vessel and barge would arrive at a private port in the town of Santo Domingo, Albay around 5 p.m. tomorrow, Tuesday, with 20 Filipino crew members, 12 of whom are COVID-19 positive. The vessel came from Indonesia before it docked at the port of Butuan on July 14. The Office of Civil Defense, or OCD, has denied an earlier report that the vessel sailed for Albay without seeking clearance from maritime authorities in Butuan. According to the OCD, the Philippine Ports Authority in the Caraga region had cleared and allowed the vessel to sail.
In other news, police frontliners deployed in Basilan, Sulu, and Tawi-Tawi are told to secure the Philippine borders and prevent the entry of the Delta variant carriers through this country's so-called southern backdoor. Leia Ilagan reports why.
Philippine National Police Chief, Police General Guillermo Eleazar tasked all police commanders to coordinate with local government units for the strict implementation of rules against COVID-19 amid the Delta variant threat. Eleazar had already prepared its personnel to stock up adequate medical supplies and equipment to protect the policemen in the field against the more transmissible variant.
Success and failure of our effort to prevent the spread of this more transmissible and more deadly variant is on our hands.
The PNP chief also orders its forces in Basilan, Sulu, and Tawi-Tawi or Basulta to intensify the monitoring and patrol on the shores of the island provinces to prevent the illegal entry of individuals coming from neighboring countries.
Atin ding binigyan ng direktiba ang ating mga commanders dito sa Basulta area, pati na rin ang maritime group para higpitan ang border control natin, lalo na yung magagaling sa ibang bansa dahil may problema nga sa Indonesia.
Maritime Group Director, Police Brigadier General John Michel Hamili said they are on patrol 24/7 to keep our borders safe. The PNP Maritime Group assures they will strictly enforce the health protocols set by the government for foreign vessels.
We have increased maritime law enforcement patrols along the border areas, particularly in maritime areas facing Indonesia and Malaysia. We have also conducted strict inspection of incoming vessels.
Eleazar further appeals to the public to stay at home and avoid going to public places if it is not necessary. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Meanwhile, hospitals are now gearing up for the possible rise of infections in the country due to the COVID-19 Delta variant. However, some hospitals remain understaffed. JP Nunez will tell us why.
Private hospitals in the country have been preparing for a possible increase in COVID-19 cases, noting their experience during the surge in April. However, according to Dr. Jose Rene De Grano, head of the Philippine Private Hospital Association of the Philippines, their operations are currently limited because a lot of their personnel have either resigned or transferred, while other private hospitals have downsized.
Ito pong nag-pandemic, talaga naman po ang mga private hospitals nag-allocate na ng 20% ng bed capacity ng mga hospitals para sa COVID cases. At pag nagkaka-surge po, talaga minamandato kami na mag-increase up to 30%.
De Grano said the private hospitals currently have enough oxygen support and ventilators, but this may not be enough if there will be a surge in cases.
Halimbawa po, yung mga magkaroon ng surge ng Delta variant, 90% po ng nakikita natin sana po ay asymptomatic at mild. Pwede po siguro magawa ng paraan pa ng mga hospitals yan. Pero pag dumami po ang kaso ng moderate at critical, doon po magkakaproblema talaga.
And although private hospitals have been mandated to allocate 30% of their capacity to COVID-19 patients during surge, they couldn't just expand their intensive care units as this involves additional space and equipment, among others.
Pag dumating ang point na talagang magkaroon ng surge ng critical cases, magkakaroon tayo ng problema again. Dahil alam niyo naman po ang mga ICU facilities ng mga private hospitals, hindi man po yan basta na i-expand. Dahil ang bago po tayo makapag-expand ng ICU facilities ng isang private hospitals, napakalaking gastos po yon. It will need additional equipment, additional space, at saka mga highly trained mga nurses and doctors.
He called on the public to continue observing minimum health protocols and get vaccinated against COVID-19. JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The OCTA research group suggested that the government should reimpose strict quarantine measures in the National Capital Region, plus to prevent the further spread of the Delta variant. Ray Pelayo reports.
OCTA Research Fellow Dr. Guido David urged the government to consider reimposing the stay-at-home order for minors due to the threat of the COVID-19 Delta variant. On July 9, the IATF has allowed children aged 5 and above to go outdoors in areas under general community quarantine and modified GCQ as long as the areas are not under heightened restrictions.
Balik yung ordinance, hinayaan natin makalabas ng mga bata, balik muna natin yan para sa safety.
Dr. David also asked the government to re-implement the NCR Plus bubble policy to prevent the local transmission of the virus. The Metro Manila mayors have yet to draw up the guidelines for allowing kids outdoors. But for some areas, the restrictions for minors remains. Navota City Mayor Toby Tiangco postponed the plan to relax the curfew for minors.
Yung tungkol sa 5 years old to 17 years old na dapat magbayaran ng pumunta sa mga parks and public spaces, dapat po today po ang sulat sa City Council para ma-revise po yung ating 24-hour curfew ordinance for minors. Kaya natin sa bagong development na to, syempre po kailangan po mag-ingat po tayo.
For San Juan City Mayor Francis Zamora, he cannot compromise the health of his constituents.
Ako personally, I will always think of the best interest of my people, lalong-lalo na kung ang pinag-uusapan po ay ang kaligtasan ng bawat isa. Siyempre, hindi natin pwedeng ikompromiso ang kaligtasan ng ating kabataan.
Manila Mayor Isko Moreno Domagoso, meanwhile, urges residents to get vaccinated.
The solution, more than tracing, more than any other thing, is proteksyonan ang tao, ang katawan ng tao, which is let's vaccinate people so that we will raise the confidence of each and every one.
For former Special Advisor to the NTF against COVID-19, Dr. Tony Liachon, the government should place the areas with Delta variants under ECQ. Liachon adds that the repatriation of OFWs from high-risk countries should also be suspended to prevent the entry of more Delta variant cases.
Pagka hindi natin nagwardya ng NCR, magkakaroon tayo ng problema in meeting our timelines na ang positivity rate mababa na.
However, the Labor Department declined the proposal, saying all OFWs under the repatriation program undergo strict health monitoring to be with their loved ones. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The number of COVID-19 cases in the Philippines rose to 1,513,396 today, with the addition of 5,000 new cases. The Department of Health case bulletin showed 5,651 additional cases. The total recoveries rose to 1,439,049, with the addition of 5,332 new recoveries. 72 new deaths were also reported, which brought the total number of deaths to 26,786. The Health Department said all labs were operational on July 17, while 6 labs were not able to submit their data to the COVID-19 document repository system. Meanwhile, the overall global COVID-19 caseload has topped 190 million, according to the Johns Hopkins University. In its latest update, the University Center for Systems Science and Engineering, or CSSE, revealed that the current global caseload and death toll stood at 190,426,864 and 4,089,030 respectively. The US is the worst hit country with the world's highest number of cases of 34,079,960 and 609,019 deaths, according to the CSSE. In terms of infection, India follows with 31,144,229 cases and 414,108 deaths. In terms of deaths, Brazil comes second with 542,214 fatalities. The other countries with more than 5 million confirmed coronavirus cases are France, Russia, Turkey, and the United Kingdom.
And for those watching our 24/7 live streaming on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook. With the national elections just months away, a political analysts say that parties should avoid factions or disagreement within their circle. Meanwhile, the faction led by the newly appointed PDP-Laban President Alfonso Cusi has a bigger chance to be official, recognized by the Commission on Elections. Nel Maribohok will give us the details live. Yes, Nel, good evening. Go ahead.
Yes, Will, the factions in the ruling party, Partido Demokratiko Pilipino Lakas ng Bayan, may weaken its position in the coming elections. This is according to political analyst Ramon Casiple. According to Casiple, every political groups should avoid disagreements that will lead to division.
Yung argumento dyan, basta naghiwalayan kayo, talagang objectively, hihina kayo. Kaya nga, ang isang partido, ang tendensiya dapat nahabulin mo, ay lumaki, magpalakas. Huwag kayo pumasok sa larong magpapahinga sa inyo.
Because of the rift, the opposition group may now initiate negotiation to other faction.
Nagnegosasyon ngayon, ang oposisyon nakipagnegosasyon, malamang nakikipag-usap na yan sa grupo ni Senator Manny Pacquiao.
According to political science professor Dennis Coronacion, the Commission on Elections may favor the group of newly elected PDP-Laban President Alfonso Cusi, considering they are more dominant compared to Senator Manny Pacquiao's group.
Tingin ko dyan, baka pumabor dun sa faction ni Cusi, ni Secretary Cusi. Kasi of course, obviously, sila yung dominant na faction. He has the backing of the President. Ito namang si Coco Pimentel, although sila yata yung mga nauna dyan, marginalized naman sila ngayon.
The registered political parties have until August 15 to submit to the COMELEC their sworn information update statements and list of authorized signatories of the political party. If the two PDP-Laban factions will both submit these documents, the poll body will settle which group would be recognized as legitimate. According to Coronacion, it is normal to a party to have disagreements.
Kasi normal yun sa isang organization na top-heavy, lalo na kung top-heavy. Ang ruling party kasi is maraming mga talent yan, sabi nga nila. Maraming may potential na umangat. So, tas may mga egos and ambitions na entertain yung mga officials, party members. So, nag-aagawan doon and that kind of behavior results in the creation of faction.
The faction of Cusi is open to talk to Pacquiao's group to settle the rift in the party. Will?
Yes, thank you very much. Nel Maribohok reporting live.
President Rodrigo Duterte vows he would bring sacks of money to support the candidates of the ruling Partido Demokratiko Pilipino Lakas ng Bayan or PDP-Laban on their campaign trail for next year's national polls. But where will the president get the money? According to the palace, through a fundraising campaign. Rosalie Cos reports why.
Critics of the Duterte administration hit President Rodrigo Duterte for his latest statement during the National Assembly of the ruling party PDP-Laban in Clark, Pampanga last Saturday. The chief executive said he will campaign for his party mates for the 2022 elections and will bring in lots of money.
those running for re-election, kakampanya ko kayo. City for city. Totoo yan. Kayong mga nagtatakbo, I commit to you. Talagang pupunta ako city for city, province for province. Kakampanya ko kayo. Pero tsaka magdala ako ng maraming pera. For sako, kung meron.
Bagong alyansang Makabayan Secretary General Renato Reyes questioned the president's statement, saying the president has money for politics but none for COVID-19 response, health workers, students, teachers, and jeepney drivers. However, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque defended the statement, saying the president intends to help raise campaign funds from private sources and this is not illegal.
There is no prohibition in the Omnibus Election Code to raise funds from private individuals for the candidacies of individuals. No? So that is what the president meant. It's an assurance to his party mates that not only will he physically campaign for them, he will also raise funds for them.
The palace official insisted the president is aware it is illegal to use public funds for partisan activities and moreover, in vote buying. Meanwhile, according to the palace, currently, President Duterte has no final list of his senatorial bets for the 2022 elections, though he has endorsed in public some of his cabinet members for the position. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
After President Duterte floated the idea of running for the second highest post in the land for the sake of immunity from lawsuits, the palace believes this might be a chance to provoke jurisprudence. Meanwhile, for a lawyers group, the president only wanted to run for vice president to escape accountability. This report will tell us why.
Let's just say perhaps this is an opportunity to provoke jurisprudence.
This was how presidential spokesperson Harry Roque described the recent pronouncement of President Duterte on his possible vice presidential bid. Speaking before the Cusi-led faction of PDP-Laban on Saturday, the president said he wants to run for the vice presidency to be immune from lawsuits as threatened by critics.
Trillanes and itong si Carpio and his ilk, panay ang takot sa akin na mademanda ako. Sabi ng batas na kung presidente ka, vice-presidenta ka, may immunity ka. Adi, tatakbo na lang ako ng vice-presidente. And after that, tatakbo ulit ako ng vice-presidente at vice-presidente at vice-presidente.
But is there really an immunity for the vice president? What does the Constitution say about it? According to Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara, under the present Constitution, the vice president is not immune from lawsuits. He cited the example of the sedition charges against Vice President Leni Robredo in 2019 that was eventually dismissed not because of immunity but for lack of evidence. The National Union of People's Lawyers, or NUPL, also emphasized that only the president has an immunity against domestic criminal complaints. The group's president, Attorney Edre Olalia, explains, though it is not explicitly written in the 1987 Constitution, unlike in the 1973 Charter, various Supreme Court decisions are consistent in saying that a sitting president is immune from lawsuit.
Ang dahilan dyan, dahil parang hindi maistorbo, magulo o masampahan ng mga walang batayang mga kaso kasi pinunong ano siya eh. Pero sa vice-presidente wala.
However, Olalia clarifies that the immunity is not applicable in the International Criminal Court or ICC. Retired ICC prosecutor Fatou Bensouda in June called for a full investigation on the Duterte administration's drug war for suspected crimes against humanity. The NUPL president also believes the president is seeking for the vice presidency not for immunity but impunity.
Mula sa gulat hanggang sa aliw, hanggang sa natatawa, hanggang sa duda, hanggang sa sabihin natin, teka muna, talaga yan atang merong pangamba na si Presidente. So obviously impunity, hindi immunity. Ibig sabihin yung walang pananagutan. Siya mismo nagsabi, para tatatan niya, no? Para hindi siya kasuhan. Pero problema, walang legal at constitutional na batayan.
Bayan Muna Parlist also believes it is clear that President Duterte wants to escape accountability, calling his remark legally insane and shameless. For political expert Professor Ramon Casiple, the immunity remark of President Duterte is irrelevant, given that his real problem is the potential ICC prosecution. For Casiple, there is a possibility that the president wants to use the vice presidency as an instrument to regain power.
Kung ang sunod na presidente ay mag-decide na bumalik sa ICC, siya mismo maghuhuli sa kanya. Sa tingin ko, posible na nag-create sa ng sitwasyon na babalik siya sa presidency. Kung ang presidente na mananalo ay pumayag na mag-step down, pumalit siya, 6 na taon yun, na hindi makapasok dito yung huhuli sa kanya.
Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, Thailand reports a record number of daily cases deaths over the past 3 days, prompting the government to impose tighter lockdowns. Mavian Dog will give us the details live. Maeve?
LC, Thailand's government is planning to implement tougher lockdown measures this week in the capital city Bangkok and other high-risk provinces. According to Chief of National Security Council General Natapon Nakpanich, tougher measures will be implemented from Tuesday designed to keep people at home. A 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. local time curfew will also be imposed in the provinces of Chonburi, Ayutthaya, and Chachoengsao. Shopping malls will be closed as announced in the official Royal Gazette on Sunday. Supermarkets, banks, hospitals, and medical clinics, however, will still be allowed to open. Furthermore, the Civil Aviation Authority of Thailand stated that domestic flights classified as at high risk from the virus will be suspended from Wednesday. Bangkok, along with 9 other provinces, have already been under the toughest restrictions as the country faces its most severe outbreak so far due to the emergence of the highly transmissible Alpha and Delta variants. So far, Thailand has reported 11,397 cases and 101 deaths on Sunday, bringing the country's total to 403,386 cases and 3,341 deaths. Elsie?
Maeve, does the government have any plans for their vaccination efforts to fight this outbreak in their country?
Yes, Elsie, health authorities in Thailand are aiming to secure more vaccines. An agreement of 20 million doses of the Pfizer vaccine will be closed today, while an order for another 50 million doses is still under consideration. Aside from that, Health Minister Anutin Chanmurakul is planning to seek approval to temporarily regulate the export of locally produced AstraZeneca vaccines in order to reinforce the country's supply. LC Thailand's production facility for the AstraZeneca vaccine is said to be of critical importance in delivering equitable vaccine access to the region. Back to you, LC.
Thank you. That is Mavian Dog from Queensland, Australia. Facebook is accused of spreading misinformation surrounding COVID-19, which U.S. President Biden equates to killing people. Marvi Delphine will tell us why live. Yes, Marvi?
U.S. President Joe Biden holds social media platform Facebook responsible for spreading misinformation on COVID-19 and vaccinations. The president commented on the issue one day after U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy released an urgent advice against health misinformation on technology platforms. President Biden states that this is what kills people.
They're killing people. I mean, look, the only pandemic we have is among the unvaccinated, and they're killing people.
Biden's administration criticizes the company of continuously permitting and failing to flag problematic posts containing COVID-19 anti-vaccine campaigns. People are left in doubt and hesitant to get vaccinated, which makes fighting the pandemic a lot harder. Facebook spokesperson Kevin McAllister has disputed the accusations. He claims that contrary to these charges, Facebook has actually helped spread authoritative information about COVID-19 and vaccines, providing millions of people with reliable sources, and instead of killing people, they are helping save lives. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, in a White House briefing, still challenges Facebook to put in place additional steps to address the misleading campaigns on the platform. At the moment, Facebook supports the collaboration of trusted sources to redirect, inform, educate, and allow people to share vaccine information. There are systems in place to flag a wider range of false information and will be removed upon approval. Elsie?
Marvy, how many people in America remain unvaccinated?
Elsie, more than 40% of the population currently remain unvaccinated, and with the Delta variant dominating the infectious cases, outbreaks run high in areas of low vaccination rates, with unvaccinated individuals making up majority of the surge of deaths so far recorded. Back to you, Elsie.
Thank you, Marvy Delphine, live from Perth, Australia. At least 188 people are dead and hundreds of others still missing after torrential rainfall triggered catastrophic flooding and landslides in parts of Germany, Belgium, Austria, and the Netherlands. The search and rescue efforts continue as floodwaters began to recede. German Chancellor Angela Merkel visited hard-hit areas in the west of the country as she describes the flooding as shocking. Merkel promised swift financial aid for worst-hit areas. The German leader then vowed to fight climate change through policy that pays more regard to nature and the climate. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I am Elsie Marcos, live from Auckland, New Zealand. Good evening.
And for our weather update, severe tropical storm Fabian remains almost stationary while maintaining its strength. State Weather Bureau Pagasa said as of 4 p.m. today, the center of Fabian was located at 1,075 kilometers east-northeast of extreme northern Luzon. It has maximum sustained winds of 95 kilometers per hour near the center and gustiness of up to 115 kilometers per hour. According to Pagasa, the storm is unlikely to bring heavy rainfall in the country throughout the forecast period. However, the southwest monsoon that is being enhanced by Fabian and the tropical storm outside the Philippine area of responsibility will cause monsoon rains over Ilocos region, Zambales, Bataan, Occidental Mindoro, and Palawan. In the next 12 hours, Fabian will begin to move generally west-northwestward and may exit the Philippine area of responsibility by Thursday afternoon or evening. It is also forecast to further intensify and reach typhoon category by tomorrow afternoon or evening. No tropical cyclone wind signal is currently in effect. The Light Rail Transit Line 2 has started collecting fares from passengers utilizing its East Extension stations today. But its management explains that its riders may save money if they will utilize the store value cards for their fare. Asher Kadapan Jr. tells us why.
The Light Rail Transit Authority spends administrative costs for every single journey tickets being utilized by LRT Line 2 passengers. LRT2 spokesperson Attorney Hernando Cabrera explains the several processes that the said ticket goes through.
Every time na bibili ka, gagamitin mo yung ticket vending machine, and then idadaan mo siya doon sa turnstile, doon sa gate. And then at the end of ng biyahe mo, kukolektahin namin yan, and then i-reprogram ulit namin, lalagyan ulit namin siya ng laman.
Amid the pandemic, additional procedures and expenditures are taken against the use of the single journey card. These include 72-hour quarantine of the physical tickets to ensure that the cards are free from possible coronavirus before they are returned to the circulation. The changes from purchases also consume time and cause delay in their operation.
So yung process na yon, it would pay some cost on our part. So mas mahal ngayon yung ating administrative costs to run or to operate a single journey ticket.
As the LRT2 East extension stations start collecting fare from passengers, those using the stored value card may save money. This is due to the exact fare being deducted in their cards compared to single journey tickets, which can only be bought in certain denominations. The LRT2 East extension, however, is only being served by one shuttle train, as its technical problem are expected to be rectified within the week.
Nakumpleto na natin yung full integration, tatanggalin na natin yung shuttle train na yun kasi ang mangyayari na, tagusan na yung mga tren natin. Ibig sabihin, lahat na ng tren nang galing ng recto, tuloy-tuloy na yung biyahe nila, makakarating na sila ng Polo, and then pabalik. So, full line na yung ikot ng ating mga tren.
Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Communist Party of the Philippines, or CPP, has denounced the recent designation of the National Democratic Front of the Philippines as terrorist group by the Anti-Terrorism Council. Meanwhile, the Olongapo Regional Trial Court has junked the first known anti-terror law case against two ITAs. Dante Amento tells us why.
The Anti-Terrorism Council, or ATC, terrorist designation of the National Democratic Front of the Philippines, or NDFP, as well as its previous resolutions against the CPP-NPA, peace consultants, and other individuals have no basis, according to Marco Valbuena, Chief Information Officer of the Communist Party of the Philippines. Valbuena adds it is part of President Duterte's schemes to remain in power beyond his term in 2022, and it aims to further shut all doors to peace negotiations. Through the Anti-Terrorism Council, or ATC Resolution Number 21, National Democratic Front of the Philippines, or NDFP, is formally designated as terrorist group in the country. The ATC says, based on verified and validated information and evidence, there is probable cause warranting the designation under the new anti-terror law. The ATC explains the NDFP is an integral and inseparable part of the CPP-NPA, and it was created through CPP initiative. Under the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020, the ATC has a power to designate individuals, group or organization as terrorists without court hearing. Freezing of assets of the designated terrorists will follow. December 2020, the government has already designated the Communist Party of the Philippines, New People's Army, or CPP-NPA as terrorist groups or organizations. And on May this year, CPP founder Joe Masison and 18 others were also included in the terrorist lists. Meanwhile, the Olongapo City Regional Trial Court, Branch 97, has dismissed the cases filed against ITAS Japer Gurong and Junior Ramos. Gurong and Ramos were the first individuals indicted under the controversial anti-terrorism law. They were accused of firing shot against army personnel of the 73rd Reconnaissance Company in Fort Magsaysay, Nueva Ecija last August 2020. But based on the court's resolution, the prosecution allegedly failed to prove the identity of the perpetrators. The court granted a demurrer to evidence filed by the accused for insufficiency of evidence. In a joint statement, the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-ELCAC, and the National Commission of Indigenous Peoples, or NCIP, welcomed the dismissal of the cases against Gurong and Ramos. It allegedly proves that our justice system works without fear or favor. Dante Amento, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
And before we close, we will leave you with a final word, giving glory to God. From the book of Proverbs, chapter 15, verse 13, it says, "A merry heart maketh a cheerful countenance, but by sorrow of the heart the spirit is broken." And those are the reasons behind the news, July 19, 2021. I am Herlene Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.